Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Bhagavad-gita Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON Didi Pangaracharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Bhagavad-gita Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Anant Koki Vaishnavinda ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. On this 24th day of January 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 4 entitled Transcendental Knowledge, text number 36 on page 223. Api ched asi papebhyah sarvebhyah papa kritamaha sarvam jnana plavenaiva vijinam santarishyasi. Api chedasi papebhyah sarvebhyah papakritamaha sarvam jnana plavenaiva vijinam santarishyasi. Api chedasi papebhyah sarvebhyah papakritamaha sarvam jnana plavenaiva vijinam santarishyasi. Api chedasi papebhyah sarvebhyah papakritamaha sarvam jnana plavenaiva vijinam santarishyasi. Go ahead, Arya. Api chedasi papebhyah sarvebhyah papakritamaha sarvam jnana plavenaiva vijinam santarishyasi. Api chedasi papebhyah sarvebhyah papakritamaha sarvam jnana plavenaiva vijinam santarishyasi. Anyone else want to try it? Api chedasi papebhyah sarvebhyah papakritamaha sarvam jnana plavenaiva vijinam santarishyasi. Anyone online?
Api chedasi papebhyah
Api chedasi papebhyah
sarvebhyah papakritamaha
sarvebhyah papakritamaha
sarvam jnana plavenaiva
sarvam jnana plavenaiva
vijinam santarishyasi.
vijinam santarishyasi. Okay, I'll read the word by words myself. You can follow along. Api, even, chet, if, asi, you are, papebhyah, of sinners, sarvebhyah, of all, papakritamaha, the greatest sinner, sarvam, all such sinful reactions, jnana plavena, by the boat of transcendental knowledge, eva, certainly, vijinam, the ocean of miseries, santarishyasi, you will cross completely. Translation. Krishna says to Arjuna, even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. Purport. Proper understanding of one's constitutional position in relationship to Krishna is so nice that it can at once lift one from the struggle for existence which goes on in the ocean of nescience. This material world is sometimes regarded as an ocean of nescience and sometimes as a blazing forest. In the ocean, however expert a swimmer one may be, the struggle for existence is very severe. If someone comes forward and lifts the struggling swimmer from the ocean, he is the greatest savior. Perfect knowledge, received from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the path of liberation. The boat of Krishna consciousness is very simple, but at the same time, the most sublime. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So this is one of the many verses in the Bhagavad Gita in which Krishna encourages us that no matter how fallen you are, no matter how disqualified you think you are, if you take up the process of devotional service. And in this particular instance, he's talking about different kinds of sacrifice that one can perform. He gave a whole list in previous verses of yajnas that one can perform. And then in text 34, he has this essential verse saying, if you really want to understand all these sacrifices and all of the process of devotional service, then you need to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevya upidekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. The idea is that the knowledge of different sacrifices, the knowledge of Krishna consciousness, try to understand it by approaching a tattvadarshi. Tattvadarshi means one who has seen the truth. Now, what is that truth? Well, we learned from the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto. Vadanti tattvavidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdite. This Brahman that we're enjoined to investigate or inquire about at the very beginning of the Vedanta Sutra, atato brahma jigyasa. This phrase jigyasa means now that you're a human being, you should inquire into Brahman. What is that Brahman? That second verse says, Janmad yasya yataha. These sutras are very short, but they're packed with meaning. Brahman is very succinctly that which is the source of everything, the cause of all causes, and also that entity that sustains everything and ultimately dissolves everything. That's what the Adi means, etc. Birth, etc. Generation. So Krishna makes it very clear in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita that he is that personality. He's the source of everything. In the 10th chapter, text 8, which is the first of the 4 essential verses in Bhagavad Gita, we're understood. He says very distinctly, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattak sarvam pavartate. Iti madvabhajanta imam buddha bhava samanvita. I am the source of everything. Everything emanates from me. The wise who understand that perfectly worship me with all their hearts. Take up the process of bhakti. So here in text 34, Krishna, he gives the importance of that tattvadarshi, of actually coming in touch with the realized soul, who can do what? Can upidekshanti te jnanam, can impart this critical knowledge, which is meant to bring about a revolution in our lives. There's a nice verse in the 5th chapter of the 1st canto of Bhagavatam, where Narada Muni is instructing Vyasadeva and inspiring him to write the Bhagavatam, his last work. He was dissatisfied. He had written all the other Puranas, he'd written the different Vedas, and he'd written the Mahabharata containing the Bhagavad Gita. But in spite of all that wonderful literature, he says, I still don't think I fulfilled my mission as the author. There's something missing. So Narada Muni sensed that. He came down and he started instructing him. And one of the verses he instructed him with is Tad Bhagavasargo Janataga Viplavo Yasmin Pati Shlokam Abadhavatripi Namanyanantasya Yashonkitanayak Shinvanti Gayanti Gunanti Sarava. So this is such an important verse for this movement and for us, because Srila Prabhupada was inspired by this verse. He took this verse and he quoted it at the end of his preface to the Srimad Bhagavatam. And what it says is that Bhagavasarga simply means the creation of words, a literary work. That book, which is meant to bring about a revolution in the lives of this impious civilization, modern civilization. Because it uses this word plava to uproot, to capsize the boat. Here he's talking about a boat, right? The boat of knowledge. So, Tagbhagavad Janatagha Viplava. So, aga means sin. So in this Kali Yuga especially, there's so much sin going on. People are confused of how to even manage their material life, what to speak of a spiritual life. So that literature, which is meant to bring about a revolution in the impious lives of present-day civilization, and even if it's imperfectly composed, it may not be the greatest literary work, you see, but it glorifies Krishna. Janata Yasmin Prati Shlokam Abadyavat Naman Yanantatsa Yangshon Kitaniyat. Naman, the unlimited Lord, Ananta is the name for Krishna, and is filled with the names and qualities and pastimes and activities of that Lord. Then those who are wise, even if it may not be such great literature, they hear it, they share it, they relish it because of the subject matter. So Srila Prabhupada, he was not a native English speaker. He had learned English in school and he was writing in English. But if you take a look at what we call the Delhi Bhagavatams, he printed 3 volumes of the first canto in New Delhi in 1960 to 64. It took him 4 years about to print those first 3 volumes. He didn't have much money. He had to he printed 1 volume, used that to get the donations for the 2nd volume, and everything he was doing alone, proofreading and writing and everything. So it took him almost 4 years. So once he had that, it was about in 1965, he felt, now I have the ammunition. Now I'm empowered. I can maybe do something. And he heroically got on a cargo ship. He had free passage from a pious devotee lady there in Bombay. And he gets on this Jaladuta, and he's got the books. He made sure he picked up the book. He had a few cases of them, of those long Indian trunks filled with the books. And he had about $7 worth of rupees. He had a bag of oatmeal or something, or that he didn't know what he was going to be able to eat when he got to America. It was like, he's just putting himself in the hands of Krishna. Please, you want me to do this mission, so. And his spiritual master, Lord Chaitanya. And I won't go into the whole detail. It was wonderfully told in Srila Prabhupada Lamrita and many other books about how he was able to, last for a whole year practically in New York City. And eventually he began to get some traction when he came down to the Lower East Side in the middle of the hippie era. If he had come earlier or come later, I don't know if he would have made it. I lived there. I was part of. I didn't join in 1966, but I was part of that. I lived in Long Island. I would spend a lot of time in New York City, and it was a time of great upheaval in young people with searching. The LSD was part of it, and the music and everything, and there was a lot of ferment thinking and experimentation. That was the thing. And so when this new mantra came, and here's this Indian guru, he looks pretty blissful and genuine, so let's try it out. Let's check out and then on Sunday they have this feast, so the free feast, you can go and eat. So he had it figured out, and he got a few sincere followers who then helped him to start the movement and it began all over the world in the next 12 years. So Prabhupada is this Tattvadarshi, and mentioned in the text 34. We're going to reread text 36. And so this is necessary. If you want to get the knowledge, he can impart that knowledge. The knowledge is the key, jnanam. And then yagyatva, knowing that, understanding that, napuna moham, having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion. Arjuna has been put into illusion, not wanting to fight, for material reasons, so that Krishna would speak the Bhagavad Gita. For by this knowledge you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or in other words, that they're mine. So you'll understand what's what, that you are a spiritual being, that that we're surrounded by millions and millions of living entities in different bodies, and all of them are part and parcel of Krishna. As he says in 15th chapter, Mamai Vangso Jiva Loka Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. That all of these living entities are part and parcel of me, Anksha. Now the word Anksha is important because it means, part and parcel means it has the same quality as what is part and parcel of. And we have 2 wonderful examples at hand. The sun, anywhere, where you get the sun rays. There's also a minute bit of light and heat in each sun ray. But it's insignificant compared to the whole sun. But we have that relationship with the sun. We have the same quality, but vastly different quantity. The ocean. You take a little thimbleful or even a drop out of the ocean, and you analyze it, and it'll have the same chemical quality as the vast ocean. It'll be salty and like that, right? So that drop has the quality, same in quality, different in quantity. Similarly, we are minute Brahman. We are also Brahman. The famous phrase from the Vedas, Aham Brahmasmi. I remember that's one of the first things we learned when we joined the ashram. Aham Brahmasmi. I'm spirit. I'm not matter, And Krishna explains at the beginning in the 2nd chapter that we're all transmigrating through this one body. We've all had many different bodies, even in this one birth. just as you grow up. I mean, we were all 10 years old at one point, right? So we all had different body, different mind. Subtle body, gross body was different. But we're the same person now as we were 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago when we were 10. But we've been transmigrating. And eventually, like all machines, this yantra, known as the body, will malfunction for whatever reason. It'll stop working, and we have to leave the body. And we don't, the soul doesn't leave alone. We take our mind and our intelligence and our ego with us. These are also material elements. And those form the template of our next body. Whatever we've done, we've created our consciousness here. So that's the basic science. So understanding the knowledge, what's the knowledge? Prabhupada said, what is real knowledge? Knowledge of this matter, spirit, and the controller of both. He says that in the 13th chapter it comes up. And it's a very nice little, motto. So what does that matter? It's all around us. The gross and subtle matter. Matter, the earth, water, fire. In other words, solid matter, liquids, radiant energy, including electricity and fire and that. Liquids of all kinds. Air, of course, gases. And then there's the space. It's getting more and more subtle, you see. And then the mind is also a material element, very subtle. We all have our mind. We can't see each other's mind, but we know we have it. And then intelligence, that critical factor of discrimination. And finally, the ego, the sense of self. Those are the 8 material elements. But that's not us. Then he says in the 7th chapter, apare mitastvanyam prakatim vidhi me param jiva bhuta mahabaho yedam dhayate jagat. All of these are my apara prakriti, my inferior energy. But there's also para prakriti, superior energies, which is spiritual, which comprises all the jivas, all the living entities, all of us, who are struggling very hard and sustaining the universe. Just like we're sustaining this body. As soon as the soul leaves the body for whatever reason, the body deteriorates. You have to bury it, burn it, get rid of it, right? It's not functioning anymore. It's just a lot of gross matter. So that's basic knowledge. So now in 35, he says, and knowing this, getting this knowledge from the realized soul, you will no longer be an illusion. You will never again fall into such illusion, for by this knowledge you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or in other words, that they're mind. So you're seeing, you see that we have a relationship with God, and that everyone else does too, and therefore we're all kin. We're all the same family. And that's the true basis of brotherhood and fraternity and all of that thing. Otherwise, we tend to judge each other by our externals, with the race and the language and the age and the gender and a million different things. And that causes so much conflict in the world. So once we see the essential oneness, we can break through all of those external barriers and relate to each other as spiritual beings. And that's the way we're supposed to do. And basically it means try to give everyone Krishna consciousness and try to unite people in the most valuable thing, because otherwise, no matter what you succeed in doing in this world, it's going to be taken from you at the time of death, if anything material. But anything spiritual you do, if you build your relationship with Krishna, your understanding, that you'll take with you. You'll start from that point in the next life. Krishna makes that clear in the 2nd chapter. So here, Krishna in the 36th verse, he's encouraging. It doesn't matter how sinful you are. It doesn't matter whatever socioeconomic condition or race or whatever you come from. No. Sarva papakritam, the most sinful, sarvam jnana plavenava. You'll be on this boat. He compares the knowledge to a boat to take you across the ocean of birth and death. And if you'll allow me, I'm going to refer to a few other boat verses, because there's some wonderful verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam and another book I'll share with you that compares what are the different boats that take us across this dangerous ocean of birth and death. So in the 14th chapter of the 10th canto, this is after the prayers of Brahma, and he has this Brahma Vimohan Leela where he steals Krishna's calves and he steals Krishna's friends, and he says, "What's Krishna? What is this little boy going to do with his little fruit in his hand?" So he comes back there for a moment, And Krishna's still playing with the boys and calves. What is this? I thought I hid him in my mystic. So Krishna expanded himself into all the boys and calves, exact replicas, so that even their mothers wouldn't know. And they all get a chance to suckle him. The cows and the calves and the boys, for a whole year, which is just a moment in Brahma's time. Then he comes back. So then he has these wonderful prayers, and one of them, I think is this one, unless it's Shukadev afterward. But anyway, it's in that chapter. Samashitaye padapallava plavam. There's that word plava again. You see? Plavenaiva, the boat. Samashitaye padapallava plavam mahatpadam punyayasho marare pavambude vatsapadam param padam 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 yad vibadam natesham. You can hear the poetry in that verse. So he says, those who take full shelter of the boat of the lotus feet of Krishna. This is the analogy. Samashita means total ashrita, or sharanagati. Padapallava plavam. Whose feet is it? Murari, the name for Krishna. Krishna's lotus feet. Padapallava plavam, the boat of the lotus feet. Mahatpadam. Now, this is interesting. Those feet are Mahatpadam. It means two meanings. One is that's where all the Mahatmas stay. They reside, the great souls that reside at Krishna's lotus feet, mean they're always absorbed in serving. Lotus feet means service. And it's also where the entire Mahatattva rests. The whole universe is resting on Krishna, Punya Yasha. Now, this is describing Murari, or Krishna. Just by his glorification, Yasha means fame, you get pious. You become pious. In other words, it's so powerful, the chanting of the holy name is our main glorification, that your whole being changes and the whole direction of your life changes. So, Punya Shomarari, Bhavambudir, the ocean of Bhava. Bhava means change. And in this context, it always means birth, old age, disease, and death. Birth, old age, disease, and death. Round and around we go. So this is like a very frightening, dangerous, painful ocean. You're in this danger. That's the thing with the ocean. If you're in the middle of it, unless you have a nice boat. So Bhavambudir, Vatsapadam, the whole ocean, you're now fully surrendered and clinging fast to Krishna's lotus feet, the boat. It all shrinks down. This vast ocean shrinks down to the water that's contained in a calf's hoof print. Not even a cow. Cow's hoof print's a little bigger. Calf's a little tiny. So now it's paradoxical. This happens like this. You have this boat. Now you don't even need the boat. You can just step across. But it is a boat. But Vatsapadam, Parampadam, you are because you're already in the spiritual world. Even if physically your body may still be here, your consciousness has now become so purified that you're living in a liberated state, always thinking of Krishna and therefore always thinking of the spiritual world. So therefore, Parampadam, Padam Padam, Yad Vibadam Natesham. Not for them is this world where at every step there's so much danger. You see, the danger comes because we identify with the body, and the body is always subject to injury or destruction or disease, as we've learned in the last few years. And so that causes great anxiety for the soul when we forget our protector and our shelter is Krishna. So that's the first boat. Now here's the second boat. This is a verse spoken by Krishna himself in the 11th canto to Uddhava. There's another Gita there. It's even longer than the Bhagavad Gita. It's called the Uddhava Gita. In the 11th, I don't know exact chapters, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And so he says to Uddhava there, and he's speaking to all of us, Nirdehamadhyam sulabham sudurlabham plavam sukal, there's that word again, plavam sukalpam gudukarna dharam mayanukulyena nabasviteritam puman bhavabdim nataret sa atmaha. Atmaha means the killer of the soul. You can't kill the soul, but spiritual suicide. So he says, very hopeful at the beginning, Nirdeham, human form of body, Naradeham. Adyam, it is filled with all kinds of faculties, most important of which is the human intelligence, the highest intelligence. Sulabham Sudurlabham. This is a great little phrase because it's a play on words. These are opposites. Sulabham means easily gotten, and Sudurlabham means very easy to get. Well, how can it be both? Because Sulabham means that you automatically get it. In other words, every soul comes up to the human form. There's no souls who are permanently damned in lower species. Everyone gets a chance, you know. So in that sense, it's sulabham. But there's only a limited number of us, even on this planet. Yes, there's 400,000 species or varieties of human beings, but the count is, we've reached 8 billion. You know, I would guess that in a square mile, you have many more than 8 billion ants, termites. I've had termites I've been fighting those for years. You know, in other words, those are all living entities. These blades of grass, when you see a lawn, every one of those blades of grass is a different soul in there, you know. So anyway, it's rare. So it's rare, but it's automatically gotten. So sulabham sudurlabham, the human form of body. So what is it? Plavam sukalpam. There's the word plava again. It is a very nicely constructed boat. Plavam sukalpam. And you also, and what kind of boat? A sailboat, you know, not a motorboat, sailboat. And so in any kind of boat, you need a captain. Guru Karandaram, the captain we just read about, the guru who is Tattvadarshi. No, basic principle, knows the Shastras, lives the Shastras, realizes the goal of the Shastras, and teaches. That's what a guru is, an acharya. You know? So we have the opportunity, we have that. Krishna has empowered Srila Prabhupada and other gurus. So the guru is there, the boat is there. Now what about the winds? Favorable winds. Krishna's words in the Vedas. Mayanukulyena nabhasmitaritam. By me, my spoken words, beginning with Bhagavad Gita, this is Krishna speaking here. There's favorable winds to push that boat over. So with all of these things, Guru Karadaram, Mayanukulyena, Puman Bhavabdim, that human being, here's the Bhavabdim again, the ocean of birth and death. That person, human being, who does not cross Bhavabdim nataret sa atmaha, is virtually committing spiritual suicide. You can't kill the soul is never killed, but you're postponing your liberation for who knows how many millions of years. So we should take advantage of it, you see. Now here's another boat verse. This is at the end of chapter 4 of the 12th canto, near the end of the whole Bhagavatam. And the chapter is a very bracing one. It's a very sobering one because it describes different kinds of annihilations. There's this big annihilation where the whole universe is withdrawn into the body of Mahavishnu at the end of Brahma's life. You know, he only lives for one breath of Mahavishnu. So when it comes out, you know, and Brahma lives for over 8 trillion. Is it 8 trillion? Yeah, 311 trillion, 40 billion years is the lifetime of our Brahma for this small universe. There's other bigger universes, Brahmas with more heads and everything, much longer lived. So anyway, from our little point of view, it's practically forever, but it's not forever. And eventually the whole universe is drawn into the body of Mahavishnu. We're all in suspended animation. We're not thinking anything. Our minds are, you know, quiet. And eventually we come out when he starts breathing out and we start again. So that's yeah. So it's virtual suicide. If we don't develop our spiritual life, then we'll be going into that state and practically non-existent for uncounted years. So that's like spiritual suicide. So the motto is, it's always the same motto. Don't waste time. You know, take advantage of this human form of life. Inquire into the absolute truth from the right source, and develop your relationship with Krishna, your Krishna consciousness. And in this age, we have this great benediction. We don't have to go to the Himalayas. We don't have to perform all these severe austerities. Chant the holy name. You know, Harinama, 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 Harinama eva kevalam kalau nasteva, nasteva, nasteva gataranyata. Such an important verse. I put it into a little poem. If you want to achieve the supreme goal of life in this age, when dissension and chaos abound, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way that can ever be found but to chant Krishna's name and chant Krishna's name and to chant Krishna's name with a stout-hearted vow, and to pray, "Oh Lord Krishna, O friend of the poor, let my head ever run to your lotus feet bow." So that's in the Puranas. That's it. I think I forget the name of it. Brihad Naradiya Purana. Yeah. So finally, there's this. My final boat. No, actually, there's 2 more boats. So this is the end of the one at the end of the 12th canto goes like this. Sangsara sindhum atidustadamutitishur Nanyak plavo, again the plavo, Nanyak plavo bhagavatak purushottamasya lila katavasa nishevana mantarena pungso bhaved vivada dukkha davarditasya. So he uses both analogies. I think Prabhupada mentions it in the purport here. That it's often compared, we're on page 223. This world is often compared to an ocean, very dangerous place that you have to get across over, or a forest fire, which is also very dangerous, right? So this verse has both of those analogies. So he says, for those who are suffering in the forest fire of birth and death in this world, and are really eager to cross over the ocean of birth and death, samsara sindhum, ati dustaram, which is very difficult to cross over, but they're very eager to do it, utti tirshur, there's no other boat, nanyak plavo, other than Bhagavat Purushottamasya Lila Katavasa Nishevanam, to cultivate the taste for Lila Kata, for descriptions and accounts of Krishna's pastimes, which Srila Prabhupada worked so hard to give us in his Krishna book. You know, he wrote that, he suspended the formal production of the Bhagavatam so that we would know who Krishna was, because he's there, you know, working on the 3rd canto, and he didn't know if he had enough time to get to the 10th canto. So at least they should have Krishna book. So it's a, what he called a summary study. It's translation with interspersed comments, but it's not as formal as we have here, like Bhagavad Gita with verse and purport, so you can chant the verse, you know. So he stopped. And then I had the great opportunity, and Prabhupada could see, he only got through 13 chapters of the 10th canto, and then he did not complete the Bhagavatam. And I was greatly blessed by Krishna to be able to participate in the team that completed the last 130 chapters or so, 120 chapters. The rest of the 10th canto, 11th canto, and then the 12th canto. So those are theirs. So that's then there's one more really sweet one with a boat, and this is one boat that I haven't memorized in the Bhagavatam, but this one is a prayer to Srimati Radharani from the Vilap Kusumanjali of Raghunath Das, and he says like this: Devi is the Radharani, O goddess. Devi dukkha kulasagaro dade duyamanam apidurgatam janam tam kripa pabalanauka yadbatam prapaya sapadapangajaliyam. In this verse there's no plava, but there's a nauka. Nauka is another word for boat. So he says, O Devi, O goddess, Srimati Radharani, this poor soul is drowning in an ocean of misery, in the middle, a very unfortunate soul. Please place this soul on the powerful boat, very strong boat of your mercy, and take him to the infallible refuge of your lotus feet. So it's a very sweet, it's an advanced verse, but it's again the same boat. We need that refuge. We need to be on a secure boat. Prabhupada compared ISKCON to a boat. He said, get on the boat and stay on the boat. Don't jump back off into the ocean, because some devotees would have trouble when they would leave, you know. Once you get on the boat, do everything you can to stay on it. So that's all inspired by the word plava in this verse. But here, jnana itself is a boat, you know, is a refuge for us. Cultivating this knowledge, Srila Prabhupada has labored so hard to give us in his books, is a real refuge. If we lead our lives according to this knowledge, we accept it, and we integrate it into our worldview and our self-view, and we try to act according to the instructions Krishna gives here and his followers give, then we have a good chance of crossing over this ocean. Maybe it will take more than one life, but we should take encouragement from the 2nd chapter, which says there's no loss, there's no diminution. So we should try as hard as we can, as fast as we can, to develop this Krishna consciousness and stay on this boat of Krishna conscious knowledge. Okay, so now we know the boat, and then now he compares the knowledge to a fire in the next verse. Yatai dangsi samidhognir. Yeah, text 77, top of 224. Yatai dangsi samidhognir. Basmasat kuruterjuna Gyanagni sarvakarmani Basmasat kurute tata. As a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities. Purport. Perfect knowledge of self and superself and of the relationship is compared herein to fire. This fire not only burns up all reactions to impious activities, but also all reactions to pious activities, turning them to ashes. There are many stages of reaction. Reaction in the making, reaction fructifying, reaction already achieved, and reaction a priori. But knowledge of the constitutional position of the living entity burns everything to ashes. When one is in complete knowledge, all reactions, both a priori and a posteriori, are consumed. In the Vedas, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 4.4.22, it is stated, Ubhe uhaivasha ete tarat yamitaha sadhuni. One overcomes both the pious and impious reactions of work. So one may ask, well, why do I want to eradicate the pious reactions? Isn't that good? This is material piety. There's a whole section of the Vedas, some of you are familiar with, called the Karma Kanda section. At the beginning of, in the second chapter, Krishna says, some people think that this is all there is in the Vedas, the flowery words of the Vedas. But no, that's meant for people who are anxious to improve their material condition, either in this life or in the next life, to go to heaven. And so one can worship this god or this goddess, you know, and worship Indra. You can go to Indra Loka. And as Krishna will describe in the 9th chapter, Tetam Bhuktva Swarga Lokam Vishalam. In that Swarga Loka, that's heavenly planet, one can enjoy like anything. Material sense gratification, you have a strong body, there's all kinds of facility for enjoyment. And you live a long time. But it's not eternal. It's based on your pious credits that you accumulated from performing sacrifices and worshiping the gods and charity and all these different things. So unfortunately, chine punye matyalokam vishanti. You know, it may be thousands of years, but at a certain point, your punya is used up, and you have to fall down against this world of birth and death. You know, and so evam tuhitama mogu anupamanna gadagatum kama kama labante. You end up just going and coming. You're not really progressing back to Godhead. You're just, you know, on this planet, you can see so many people, they save their money, they aspire, and then they somehow are able to buy a house in San Diego, you know, as opposed to Montreal or somewhere in Montana, you know, hoping the weather will be better, you know, like. So, but it's a foolish aspiration, because anything material is limited. It's asat. And we're missing the boat. We're missing our chance as human beings to really, you know, go back to God. So therefore, that's why it says here, it burns to ashes all. Even if you have a good reaction coming, that'll still bring you back to a material body, so you can get your good results. But it's not that good, because, you know, then they're consumed, and then you're still faced with birth, old age, disease, and death, which Krishna says one should remember. He says, Janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha doshana darshanam. This is one of the elements of knowledge he describes in chapter 13. There's a whole 20 of them or so. It means that one should be aware and keep in the back of the mind, you know, the evils, meaning the pains, the distresses caused by birth, old age, disease, and death, which inevitably accompany material body. So this is one of the primary impetuses for practicing any kind of yoga, to get liberation. Now, Krishna consciousness, you achieve that, but much more. If you actually advance in devotional service, that liberation becomes less prominent to you as a motivation, because you're tasting your actual relationship with Krishna more progressively the more pure you get. And we should understand that includes mukti. Perfection in bhakti includes mukti. Rishabdev, when Lord Rishabdev was an incarnation of Krishna in the 5th canto, he has certain little lessons in his full lesson that he gives. And one of them describes, he's saying, you know, nunam pamatta kurute vikarma yadindiya pritaya apranoti. He says, certainly, nunam means certainly, those who are simply endeavoring for sense gratification, gross or subtle, are mad in this world. Why? He says, I don't think it's a very good idea. Because it ensures that you're going to take another body another gross body in this world, and you're going to suffer like anything. And then he has a really key verse. He's describing, there's a whole lesson here. Parabhavas tavad abodha jato yavad jigyasada atma tattvam yavad kriyas tavad idam manovai karmatmakam hina shirira bandha. So there's two pairs there of yavat tavat. In Sanskrit, very perfect language, you know. Just like we have yata tata. You want to make an analogy. There's a lot of analogies. Like the boat is an analogy. And in the Dehinosmin verse, it's yata tata. Just as you have transmigrated in this one body, from body to body, similarly, when the body dies, you're going to get another body. The same transformation, yata tata. So this yavan tavat is like, usually it's negative. As long as you don't do this, you won't get that. Yavat tavat. So you listen for that. Padavabas, the tavat can come first sometimes. Padavabas tavad abodha jatu. So what is parabhavas? It's described here as defeat. Parabhavas means, again, taking another physical body with no Krishna consciousness. That's parabhavas, which is born of ignorance. We're back to knowledge, which is the subject here. Born of ignorance. It doesn't mean that you're not a professor of chemistry or something. You're born of ignorance of transcendental science. Tavat abodha jato yavan na jigyasa. Here's that word jigyasa again, which is in the very first sutra. Tato brahma jigyasa. As long as one does not inquire into the truth of the soul, what is matter, spirit, and the controller of both. But abhavas tavat abodha jato yavan na jigyasata atma tattvam. Atma tattva is the truth of the soul, of the self. Then one will remain ignorant, which is the root cause of parabhavas, of birth and death. Yavat kriyas, because as long as you are in that ignorance, your mind will be saturated with impetuses for material fruit of action. That's called kriya. Yavat kriyas, as long as you're performing these fruitive activities, it could be in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance. Tavadidam manovai karmatmakam. Your mind will remain saturated, called karmatmakam, with fruitive desires. Just like the ordinary person you see on the street. They have their immediate desires. Okay, I got to get to work. I got to pay my bills. They have their ultimate desires. Okay, if I work nicely, I'll get 2 weeks paid vacation. So they will go to here. All kinds of, and then there's all little desires and the negative desire. I want to avoid that person. I'm hurting in pain. I'll drop aspirin, whatever. These are all a whole bunch of desires. So then your mind, that's karmatmakam. Yena sharira bandha. By that mind saturated with food, desires and fears and all these things, yena, by which sharira bandha, you stay bound up to a sharira, a physical body. So third verse. Now in this verse, Rishabdev, he gives a punchline, so to speak. So he says, Evam mana karma vashang payunkte avidyatman nupadiyat mane. The first two lines is, thus, evam manak, the mind is the key. Karma vasham payunkte, which is impelled by karmic desires. This is karmatmakam, you see. Payunkte avidyatman, in ignorance, avidyatman upadiyamane. That's the situation, full of ignorance. But then he says, Pritir niyavan mahivasudevi namuchate dehi yogena tavat. So here's the whole ultimate lesson, and it fits right in with everything else. Pritir, love. Pritir, prema. Yavan mahivasudeva. He says, I am Vasudev. I'm an incarnation of Vasudev. As long as one does not develop love for me, Vasudev, then there's no mukti for you. Mukti is subordinate to prema. And if you try to get mukti without bhakti, then you may merge into Brahman for some time, but it's not fulfilling. Because the soul, we are all persons, eternal persons, just like Krishna. We're angsa of Krishna, so we have his qualities. That means we need relationship, we need rasa, we need activity, we need form. We have person. If that's all suppressed and we're just a conscious being sitting in the sensory deprivation chamber of Brahman, eventually we get bored and we come down again to this. We'll come down. It's not secure, that impersonal liberation. So therefore he says, Priti, love, there's no love in Brahman. It's all just, I am that I am. So Priti Niyavan Maya Vasudevi, until and unless there is love for Vasudev, Krishna, there will not be mukti. And so that also means that you just endeavor to develop your loving service attitude to Krishna, mukti will take care of itself. And there's a verse like that. It's getting kind of late. Very famous verse, Prabhupada would quote near the end of the Krishna Karnamrita. Krishna Karnamrita is a beautiful book by Bilvamangal Thakur. Lord Chaitanya fell in love with that book. He went to South India, brought it back with him, and it became current in Gaudiya Vaishnava. So near the end it says, Bhaktis, this Bilvamangal Thakur was blind. He had blinded himself. That's a long story, I won't tell you. But he's blind, but he has the transcendental vision. So he's always seeing Krishna with the spiritual vision. And he's addressing Krishna. Bhaktis tvahi stiratada bhagavan hridisyad. Daivena nakapalati divhi kishora murti. Mukti swayam mukulitanjali sevite sman dharma takamagata yaksamayak patiksha. My dear Lord, if one is fixed in devotional service to you, bhakti sri stiratada bhagavan yadisyad, then daivena palati divya kishoramurti, then one will get the result, will have the fruit of that fixed, that fixed devotion. And what is it? Mukti? No. It's a vision of your beautiful adolescent form. In other words, you will reveal your original form that's self. So that's what he's experiencing. He can't see physically, but in his spiritual eyes, he's seeing Krishna all the time. And as far as mukti is concerned, what about mukti? Mukti swayam mukulitanjali sevate sman. You know how we have this pushpanjali? Anjali is a mudra. It's like this mudra. And in here, it's an offering. You have flowers or whatever you have in there, your soul, So mukti swayam mukulitanjali. So she's waiting at the door, mukti, to serve you. In other words, whatever I need in terms of mukti, it's already taken care of. And then he says dharma, and if I need any dharma, artha, and kama, which are the other three goals, they're also there. That'll be there. But the main thing is, I'm concerned most with getting a beautiful vision of your Kishore Murti, so that's the devotee. Devotee works to develop Krishna consciousness and let mukti take care of itself. And Lord Chaitanya says, I'm not praying for that. I'm chanting Hare Krishna, but I'm not saying, please deliver me from this birth and death. No. He's teaching us how to pray in his Shikshastika. Nadanang nadanang nasundarim kavitang va jagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmani shwade. Wealth and women, followers, the fruits of mundane piety, liberation from this world of limitless anxiety. For me, O Lord, these common goals have not the slightest worth. Let me serve you purely now and in each future birth. And when he mentions each future birth, it means he's not praying for liberation either. That's a janmani janmani. So this is the prayer of the Vaishnava, the Gaudiya Vaishnava. We start out, our path, yes, it's a great impetus. Let me get free of birth and death and go back to Godhead. That's perfectly fine. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. But as you progress and you taste more and more the nectar of Krishna's lotus feet, that's not your main concern. You're not worried about birth and death. Let me take so many births as long as I can keep serving Krishna. You see, that's the great devotees. So you can see that this prema is even more valuable than mukti. And there's pastimes like that. I won't get into it. How Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who was a great Mayavadi, and Lord Chaitanya converted him. And this verse, what is that verse? Mukti Pade Sadaya Bhak. See the verse, it skips my mind. But the verse ends with Mukti Pade, and Sarvabhauma didn't want to hear it. He changed the verse, the Bhagavatam verse. He edited the verse, the rascal editor like me. And he said, Bhakti Pade. And Lord Chaitanya laughed. He said, you can't change the verse. You can't change the Bhagavatam. That Mukti Pade means that Lord Chaitanya's feet, Lord Krishna's feet are the place where liberation resides. It's okay, And he said, I don't even want to hear that word mukti anymore, because it had all this connotations in his mind of impersonal liberation, which he didn't want to even think about anymore. Well, it's 8:09. Any final questions or comments? I'm sorry, I kind of got off a little bit, but we'll resume. Go ahead. Take the mic up, because there are people out in YouTube land listening.
I think it's on, right?
It's on, yeah. Just hold a little closer.
So if I understood the last part of what you were explaining, if on a daily basis, if we're trying to use self-discipline and a lot of effort to renounce and not be attached to the results of our work, that's not the right strategy. If I understood what you said, correctly, it's more through the practice, it comes naturally. Did I understand
Well,
correctly?
here's the thing, is that Krishna is going through different kinds of yoga here, actually. You know, there's jnana yoga. He'll also speak about Ashtanga yoga, meditative yoga, chapter 6, you see? And these are all important concepts, you know, but ultimately they're all integrated into the process of bhakti. For instance, the sacrifice, this idea of yajna, you know, that's been the last couple of chapters. This is what he's talking about. The third chapter, he had a famous verse that whatever you do, you have to do it as sacrifice for the Supreme, otherwise it'll bind you to this world. Well, that's pretty hard. Unless you're living your life as a devotee, and everything you do, if you come to the point of, okay, even though I'm working to support my household and whatever, but that household is kind of a temple. I'm raising my children, and why everyone is a bhakta. So that's also part of devotional service. So the main thing is that these ideas are very important, but when you come to the point of actually practicing pure devotional service, the goal is ultimately prema, or pure love for Krishna. And everything else is subsumed under that. You'll get everything you need in terms of liberation and knowledge. And even Krishna says in the 8th chapter, I'll provide what you need to live. You know, you don't have to worry about your maintenance. I mean, that's pretty radical. But Srila Prabhupada proved it by starting this movement, and everyone was just working to serve Krishna, and the Lakshmi came, the books were printed, and the Lakshmi coming, the temple is, going on. So in other words, we don't have to separately worry about mukti, but it's a good kind of fail-safe to understand. It says, okay, I can see now I'm doing something, it's not in the program of Krishna consciousness, and so it's planting another desire seed in my mind that I'm going to have to purify later. So let me just stay strictly, doing things in Krishna consciousness, remembering Krishna, and yes, the liberation part will be taken care of, and I won't be prolonging my stay in this material world, and I'll be speeding up my realization of the bhakti rasa, which is really what we're looking for. So the whole process has been created. A good book to me would be Nectar of Devotion, which is Rupa Goswami's book about the process of devotional service and the fruit of devotional service. He talks about the different rasas there, but in the beginning he says, oh, here's the 8 benefits of Krishna consciousness. And they're more than just liberation. Liberation is one of them, but the real benefit is, tasting the great ocean of happiness and bliss that's not even available for those who achieve mukti. In other words, it's the greatest happiness you can achieve on any plane is by reawakening your original relationship with Krishna and your loving relationship of service. So it's not that these things are unimportant, but they're ultimately integrated. Whatever we need in terms of sacrifice and detachment is there if we follow if you just surrender unto Krishna. The last instruction, he says, Sarva dharma parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. He says, oh, Arjun, give up all dharmas and surrender only unto me. Your sins will nullify, O friend, from all anxiety be free. So, so that's the essence of it. The last 2 verses. Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyadi manamaskadu mame vashasi satyam te patijane priyosi me. Just think of me, become devoted, worship me, and bow down low. You'll come to me, O friend. I promise you this boon I shall bestow. Give up all dharmas and surrender only unto me. Your sins will nullify, O Arjun, from anxiety be free. I put him into a little poem, obviously. So that it all boils down to that. If we can surrender unto Krishna through the means of the spiritual master, and follow the principles of devotional service, then you don't have to worry, so much about the details of how your liberation is going to be taken care of. The knowledge will come because a very important part of bhakti is studying the shastra, these classes and everything. So everything is taken care of in that sense. But to come to that point, okay, then let's see the importance of not working for fruitive results and keeping our mind clear of all these material desires, In other words, it's all very scientific. But once we start the process of devotional service, then it takes care of everything. We have to get ready because it's time. Uh-oh, we're really in trouble now. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. And we need to start maybe at 7 o'clock.